Greetings from Dr. Visalakshi Rajeshwari, Professor and Head of the Department of Resource Management, Avinash Lingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore. Dear students, in this session, we are going to deal with Module 27, Indoor Air Quality Concepts, Low or Zero VOC Paints. This aspect may be something new to you. Of course, they are part and parcel of our life. Yet, we would like you to know a little more about what these concepts are. Today's session deals with that. Outdoor air pollution can be attributed to emissions from vehicular traffic, factories, industries, agricultural activities, photochemical smog in the ambient atmosphere and other places specifically involving combustion processes. Bioaerosols from natural microbial activities can also contribute to air pollution. They contaminate the air in the interiors too. The worst part is that these aspects contaminate the air in the interiors too. They obtain entry into the indoors through open fenestrations and leaks in building envelope or through infiltration. Hence, today's session is on indoor air quality, or what you call as IAQ concepts, zero or low VOC paints. By the end of this session, you would have gained knowledge on the concept of indoor air quality, major pollutants contributing to poor IAQ, sources of pollutants, health issues related to exposure to IAQ, low and zero VOC paints. Pollutants in the indoor air differ with the place of occurrence, namely rural or urban. Major settings of air pollution in rural settings basically are from burning of fossil fuel and organic fuels, which give out methane and carbon gases and certain building materials too. In urban areas, it is mostly from industrial sources. Oxides of nitrogen, carbon and sulfur, particulate matter, hydrocarbons, ozone and many other photochemical oxidants share the composition of pollutants in the air emerging from urban areas. In addition, radon from building materials, water and soil, formaldehyde from insulation, asbestos, mercury, man-made mineral fibers, VOC from paints, allergens, tobacco smoke and presence of microbes also contributed to pollution and ultimately ill health of urban population. These pollutants tend to recirculate and achieve higher concentrations, especially in air-conditioned rooms where the ventilation level is maintained low. Evidently, sources of air pollution in the interior of buildings are effectively through the double concentrations of pollutants from the ambient environment plus those generated within the buildings. The significant fact to be noted is that indoor air can be polluted by either a specific source or several sources. They may be generated daily, periodically or once in a while. It's because the pollutants contributing to indoor air pollution and thereby the indoor air quality emerge from multiple sources and multiple products. Have a look at the next slide to gain idea on the main pollutants and their sources. Building materials, furnishings, appliances and cleaning agents are the main sources of volatile emissions and particulate matter. Pollutants like bioeffluents, tobacco smoke, biological organisms, insecticides, pesticides, etc. have their origin from daily human activities, but use of heating and cooling operations, HVAC, refrigerators, compressed boards and fuel burning equipment are responsible for combustion emissions and bioaerosols. It is very evident that the sources of indoor pollutants more or less emerge only from man's activities. It's also very clear that even routine activities that get along smoothly cause air pollution without even people noticing it. It is evident that many of the products in day-to-day use are precursors to indoor pollution. There are different types of air pollutants. For ease, they can be classified under 7 groups, namely combustion products, volatile organic chemicals, respirable particles, respiratory products from human breathing, biological origin and bioaerosols, radionuclides and odors. Each pollutant in turn give out specific pollutants into the environment, as you see in the table. These facts highlight the fact that throughout people are exposed to pollutants of a multiple kind, irrespective of wherever they are. Having come to know the sources of indoor air pollutants, it is inevitable people come to know about indoor air quality, IAQ in short, and their influence on personal health and how it is caused. What are the impacts on air quality? Pollutants cannot become health hazards just by their presence in the environment, here in the indoor area. When the concentration of pollutants goes beyond a particular or optimal level, coupled with the time of exposure of the person to such concentrations, it can lead to health hazards. Individual health status, where one is more susceptible to effects of pollutants, also ends up in harmful effects. Issues encountered with pollutants hence are not just dependent on the nature of pollutants and exposure time alone, but also on the provisions made for sending such pollutants out into the ambient air from inside. This warrants provision of adequate ventilation facilities. Improper ventilation in rooms result mainly in increasing pollutant concentrations considered detrimental to health. Therefore, good indoor air quality can be ensured only by planned buildings with adequate ventilation and avoidance of polluting products, purely a human endeavor. The extent to which the indoor environment can affect human health is dependent upon these four major interdependent aspects: physical factors, indoor air pollutant species, rate of emission, and adequacy or inadequacy of ventilation. Proper selection, planning, and execution of these aspects decide how the indoor environment can address indoor air quality and influence human health status. It can therefore be assumed that human activity is the root cause of good or poor indoor air quality. In this context, let us see the major pollutants and how they contaminate the environment. Products used by people in day-to-day activities like air fresheners, waxes and polishes used on furniture, various cleaning solutions, paints, pesticides, fabric softeners, protectors, deodorants, all have inorganic or organic chemicals in their composition which pollute indoor air. Similarly, human beings get along involuntarily with their regular metabolic activities like respiration, perspiration, release of water vapor, heat and odors, and other life-sustaining activities like food preparation and storage. Prima facie, they don't seem to be in any way harmful, but in fact, these reduce the concentration level of oxygen in the interior and increase carbon dioxide levels. If there are smokers in the family, the nature of pollution need not be explained. Another important source of pollution in the interior is fuel used and the combustion processes adopted by the family. Kitchens designed with poor ventilation, placing stove at floor level, and improper use of vessels with incompatible base also account for high concentration of pollutants while using LPG. The components in the products used by people further add to the pollution factor, though people are quite unaware of it. Majority of the products used contain synthetic polymers as essential ingredients. Furniture and furnishings people use are best examples. They are the major sources of organic and microbiological pollutants in indoor environments. Binding materials used in making and or laying furniture and furnishing are the next culprits. Various kinds of resins and adhesives are used in joineries. Such resins and adhesives contain an organic compound called formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is a major pollutant. Exposure to this gas at levels over and above 0.1 ppm, that is parts per million, can be detrimental to health. Health effects manifest as irritation in the eyes, nose and throat, cough, fatigue, wheezing, rashes in the skin and other allergic symptoms. In some people, it can also cause cancer. Very significant but less known sources of formaldehyde in interiors are from pressed wood products, These contaminate the air circulating indoors. Likewise, a host of consumer products people use also contain formaldehyde, though users can feel little satisfied in that only a few of them release the gas in sufficient quantities to cause health problems. Hence, levels of formaldehyde released into the interiors are determined to a considerable degree based on the nature of the source of the gas and the total quantum of the material releasing it used in the building's interior. So always be cautious about this gas. To sum up, have an idea on the precursors which can be found in all materials used in indoor environments. They are laminated wood, particle boards, insulation, fiberglass, and Radon 222 or 222, which are the major pollutants. The most important one is radon. What is this radon? Radon 222 is a radioactive gas which is, again, to be precise, found to be a contaminant in tightly sealed buildings. Materials used for construction like the common brick, concrete rocks, aggregates, mortar mixes, and other plastering materials all emit this gas. Further, the gas can be released from regularly used underground and domestic water, natural gas, and soil, and will easily pollute the indoor environment. So it is there in almost everything people use. Why is it considered harmful? Because major action of radon gas lies in its ability to decay and release alpha particles which are dangerous to health. Now, have you understood how dangerous it is? These factors are ample proof to address how air in one's living environment can be made poor in quality by one's own actions and consumption patterns. To understand that the indoor air quality is poor and it is affecting the inmates, it is necessary to check once in a while for the presence of a few symptoms, both in the indoor work environment and in houses. To identify their presence in the interior, one can rely on the perceivable symptoms felt and expressed by the inmates, residents, users, and visitors of the places, starting from sneezing or irritation in nose, eyes, to complex health problems and or changes in work productivity. Alternately, presence of such pollutants can also be found out from the environmental conditions existing in the specific places, like measuring the humidity levels, ventilation levels, etc. Now let's see the concept of IAQ versus human health. Indoor air quality highlights presence of chemical or biological pollutants or the absence of adequate ventilation in the occupied rooms and buildings. Air quality in an interior can affect human beings dependent on the nature of pollutants, their source, concentration, and duration of exposure. Effects therefore can be short time or long time. Either way, the affected individual suffers the consequences. It can range from ordinary sneezing, common cold, to psychogenic diseases and even cancer. Short-time exposure, of course, may cause only temporary bouts of illness, but prolonged exposure result in the individual falling prey to infectious diseases and chronic illnesses which cannot be cured or may require long-term treatment. Temporary effects can become troublesome in the long run too. Both the conditions will affect an individual's status of performance, efficiency, attendance, and morale, especially of workers in the polluted environment. Have a look at such health effects of poor IAQ. First, let us see the short-term effects of poor IAQ. Shortness of breath, suffocation, congestion and cough, irritation of the upper respiratory tract, redness, itching, watering eyes, lack of visibility, sinus trouble, sneezing, wheezing, headache, dizziness, nausea and vomiting, tiredness, weariness and fatigue, lack of concentration in work, listlessness, general weakness, discomfort, digestive intestinal disorders. The list is endless. Many of the symptoms are but everyday occurrences for all of us. Agreed? See how our places are polluted. If short-term effects are so bad, we have to be cautious about the long-term effects. What are they? Respiratory infections and diseases, cancer, mortality, chronic lung diseases, problems during pregnancy affecting fetal health, sick building syndrome, mild flu or fever, influenza, which is non-pneumonia type, pneumonia, hypersensitivity, which can lead to psoriasis, skin infections, etc., lack of immunity to microorganisms, asthma, asbestosis, infection of the mucous membrane, intestinal diseases and worm infections, and digestive disorders. It is really harassing to browse through the list. Poor IAQ is found responsible for even fatal episodes and complexities in fetuses and newborn. It's very clear that these pollutants find easy access to our internal body systems and cause havoc to their performing efficiency. It's high time that people became sensitized to these ill effects they themselves inflict. These aspects need special address because they may lead to even overall debility or death of a resident or worker. What can be done? How can you improve IAQ in home environments? The following 7 measures, if practiced, will be beneficial. Have adequate fenestrations, open windows, open doors, etc., which can ensure ventilation. Prefer optimum circulation of fresh air and lighting to artificial sources. Orient fenestrations to enable free entry and exit of air, smoke and fumes. Use exhaust fans, open windows, chimney and flues or hobs to facilitate exit of smoke and fumes. Use appropriate vessels on the stove to prevent dissipation of heat. Avoid burning of coal, kerosene and biomass for cooking and heating purposes. See to zoning restrictions and bylaws before construction so as to avoid industrial areas and noisy traffic problems nearby. How can you improve IAQ in other built environments? The following 10 important measures would help maintain permissible IAQ in all built environments. Ensure optimum or admissible temperature and humidity levels maintained in the rooms throughout the day. Avoid use of harmful toxic substances like high VOC paints. Use more of eco-friendly materials in construction and finishes. Follow setback regulations to ensure free entry of light and air circulation. Choose pressed wood products which are of lower emitting quality for construction and furniture. Prefer those with phenol resins to those containing urea resins. Ensure mechanical air circulation in large spaces with more inhabitants using air conditioners and dehumidifiers. Curtail overcrowding in interiors, especially offices and public spaces. Be cautious about the content of formaldehyde in furniture and furnishings. Insist on polyurethane coating on pressed wood products to reduce formaldehyde emissions. Opt to breathe fresh air once in a while. That's more important. What other viable measures can we think about? It has to be a participatory approach where all stakeholders are involved for a common good. Awareness generation among people on the issues of poor IAQ and benefits of adequate IAQ. Educating masses on methods to ensure adequate IAQ. Encouraging use of eco-friendly building materials in construction. Disseminating knowledge on harmful effects of using toxic, harmful products for building construction, decoration, insulation, other services and furnishings. Motivating industries to manufacture eco-friendly building materials and finishes. Avoiding use of products which emit gas like acetone and ammonia, which are highly volatile and toxic. Avoiding preference for paints with high VOC content. Inspecting materials used by promoters and builders and taking punitive action against defaulters. Monitoring construction activities and traders for promoting eco-friendly building materials and finishes. Similarly, providing subsidy to industries that manufacture eco-friendly building materials and finishes can be from the government side. Implementing strictly the building codes recommended under schemes to ensure health and safety of occupants is from the local governance. Till now, we have been discussing about some general pollutants. The next factor leaving an impact on the health aspects of human beings in the interior is the presence of toxic gases from the chemicals used, especially emanating from paints. There is a sole pollutant which, while polluting the indoor air, can drastically affect the health status of the inmates, and that is volatile organic compound or VOC. Let us discuss about that in detail. VOCs in paint are considered deleterious to the environment and specifically to the workers who handle them on a routine basis. They are gases containing volatile organic compounds emitted by various products. They are capable of causing short or long-term health effects in human beings based on the nature, accumulation, level, and duration of exposure. Several human activities involving use of certain chemical consumer products, both from consumption and production, are found to give out toxic gases. Such sources, it is estimated, to emit approximately more than 140 teragrams of carbon per year in the form of VOCs. There are more than 10 such pollutants containing VOC, and you would be astonished to hear many of the consumer products that we use in our day-to-day affairs are the real precursors of them. The table given in the slide is more self-explanatory. See how our own activities and possessions turn harmful for us. Only thing we can do as consumers is to practice caution. Of course, there are other pollutants emitting VOC in interiors like new buildings which have used abundant new materials generating VOC particles in a short span of time, consumer products like new furnishings, wall coverings, etc., office equipment like our photocopiers, personal habits like smoking, use of dehumidifiers in winter, rate of exchange or rate of air exchange, which is very low in winter. These factors further aggravate the problems. Similar to the other pollutants, VOCs also influence negative impacts on human health very badly. See for yourself in the next slide. There are almost 12 known ill effects to individuals exposed to VOCs in the interior environment. Sick building syndrome, that is long time exposure and level of exposure to VOCs can cause sick building syndrome. Respiratory problems, sensory irritation symptoms, that is especially of the respiratory tract, allergy, visual disorders, memory impairment, immune effects in infants and children, carcinogenic effects, loss of coordination, nausea, dizziness and headache, damage to liver and central nervous system and kidneys, fatigue, nose bleeding. Definitely they are very, very harassing. Unless people rise to the occasion and take concrete steps to curtail bouts of such health issues on their own accord, things may go beyond everybody's control. So let us see what one can do in the individual level. A simple answer is to devise measures to reduce exposure. How? Buying products containing low or no VOC, buying the exact amount needed to avoid storing, avoiding storage of chemical products, providing well-ventilated areas where products containing VOCs are used, reducing infiltration into buildings, incorporating good mechanical systems and design assemblies, using eco-friendly products, especially paints and coatings, using only low VOC or zero VOC paints in interiors. But what is this low or zero VOC paints? Paints made of latex or recycled latex, which are water-based, and those made of acrylic and milk paints qualify for being called low VOC paints. Labels in paint containers are supposed to give details on their VOC content as a mandate. The standard is less than 50 gram per liter of VOC for referring to it as low VOC paint, and less than 5 gram per liter of VOC to refer to paint as zero VOC paint. So these issues, as we understand, therefore are not individual affairs. They have to be approached on a large scale, but only by the beneficiaries, that is occupants of the buildings, but also all the stakeholders who have stakes in this aspect, like industries, companies, builders, promoters, architects, civil engineers, government officers, PW, town planning, housing board, all of them, and the local governance, all have a stake in it. Above all, every individual should take personal responsibility for the space he uses, either at home, workplace, or a public space to safeguard his/her personal health, as it is believed that the indoor air is 5 times more polluted than the external air. Let us pledge to take individual care of ourselves. Have in mind the 3 maxims: prevention is better than cure, charity begins at home, and self-help is the best help. Thank you.